Welcome back to another episode of Extra Points. Joining me today is Cameron Burnett, the visual managing editor for the Appalachian, and Madison Hricik, the sports editor for the Breeze. So, interesting game, to say the least. App State had a 28-3 lead, and then
we hate that number around here. We really hate 28-3 around here. So, yeah, a lot of things happened. Talked to Coach Clark post-game. Obviously, he answered how he normally did. It all falls on him. It was just a chaotic game. The run game was really going in the first half, and as y'all know, coming into this game, App State relies on the run game. That's what they do. They had 57 rushing yards in the first half. In the second half, they had what I believe was 14 rushes for 6 yards. Not good, right? And quarterback Chase Bryce spoke saying that the team got run happy in the second half. And obviously when it's not efficient, it kills drives. You get rid of those early down passing plays. All of a sudden you have 6 3-and-outs and you're down. And that's what happened.
I guess going off that, Madison, what did you see kind of out of the JMU team down 28-3 in that second half?
Well, you know, I had mentioned this in the halftime report. If there was a team that needed to get out of a half and regroup and take a deep breath, it was JMU. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong was starting to go wrong. You know, JMU had fumbles after fumbles, and, you know, the secondary wasn't marking App State's receivers when Chase Bryce was, you know, hitting some of those receptions. And even head coach Kurt Signetti said post-game, you know, App State was making great plays. They were. And that's part of the reason why, you know, everyone was a little, at least from the fan base, was a little concerned at halftime. But, you know, Coach Signetti talked about the abdominal will that they had been speaking of all practice. He talked about a quote from Gandhi that he spoke to the team about yesterday. And, you know, relying on that will, relying on each other. And, you know, Todd Centeio said at halftime, you know, score 0-0 if we look at it that way. And, you know, I think JMU really took that to heart. They took advantage of that opportunity. And the defense came out, had a really strong defensive drive. And, you know, Todd Centeio and the rest of the JMU offense kind of took it away from there.
29 unanswered points by the JMU Dukes. Kind of walk me through what happened with that App State defense maybe to allow that.
Well, I think obviously in the first half you saw a lot of – I spoke about Nick Hampton, obviously the outside linebacker for App State. He was getting pressure all first half, but a lot of that was rushing on the outside. He had one stunt where he ran inside, didn't get a sack on it, but I'm like, can we use that more? Because Todd Centeio obviously is a mobile quarterback, and when you rely on those speed rushers, both your guys are speed rushers on the outside, you obviously force him forward in the pocket, and then you're relying on your nose tackle to stop a guy who is clearly faster than him from getting loose. And obviously he was scrambling for a lot of yards. And when he has all that time because of that, and then you're forced to really pull back on your pass rush, Centeio was allowed to do whatever he wanted. And when the offense was struggling, the defense got tired. And there's nothing you can do to avoid that when you spend almost all the second half on the field.
App State's, you know, nothing new to close games. They've had close games all season. Last week with the Hail Mary against Troy. So I guess what made this game maybe a little bit different to where it didn't swing in the favor of App State?
Well, I think the hard thing for me is like when people ask, I'm like, I don't know how to judge this team right now. Like this point differential is almost 0. Like you could easily be 4-0 because you almost beat Carolina if you just converted a 2-point conversion. You could have lost to A&M. You could have lost to Troy last week. You could have won this game today. Every single game was a toss-up, and you just happen to be 50-50 on it. So I don't know how to judge the team right now from this point of view as we get further into conference play.
In JMU, obviously 3-0 right now. This one's a close game. Perhaps maybe if they don't have the turnovers at the start of the first half, maybe things go a little bit differently. For you, JMU, where do they stand?
You know, I think JMU's got a lot of confidence. This win was really, really big. They talked about this all throughout postgame. This was a win that was defining for them as a program. You know, it was a game that a lot of fans had circled the second the schedule was released. They knew coming to Kid Brewer Stadium, coming to the Rock was not going to be easy. And this is a game that so many former players were excited about because this is a long-time rivalry that's finally getting the chance to renew itself. And Cameron, I don't know about you, but I definitely think this is going to be a rivalry.
No, I definitely agree, and like that was like the nature, like we talked about it this week, like how the fans in Kid Brewer got a little bit quieter as the field product kind of diminished, and JMU was what I heard all of the second half, which is similar to what we saw in the Carolina game in those late moments. But obviously then that turned into a back-and-forth yelling fest between two fan bases as App State scored 40 points in the fourth quarter. But it was different today, and JMU ended up being the noise at the end of the game, and that will definitely lead into more, not bad blood, I'd say, but some rivalries between the two fan bases.
I guess my next question is, we're both in the Sun Belt Conference. What does this mean for the Sun Belt as a whole now? JMU undefeated, knocks off maybe what some would consider the top dog here. What does it mean for the Sun Belt?
You know, I think for the Sun Belt, this means that some of these new programs that are coming in are not here to mess around. I mean, every single major addition to the Sun Belt has had pretty much its own moment to shine. You know, you had Marshall topping Notre Dame 2 weeks ago. You had ODU starting the whole season off with a victory over Virginia Tech, which was huge for that program. And now you have JMU coming in and beating App State, a team that, you know, JMU really was excited to play. And so having these moments where a new team can come, step out, make a statement for themselves, make this conference exciting, showing off why these regional rivalries were so important from the get-go. It just builds that tenacity and builds that energy, and it just makes it all the more exciting for college football fans.
And then maybe from like the App State perspective.
Yeah. Like App State, from watching them, has been chaos. The Sun Belt as a whole has been chaos, and it's really hard to, and that's kind of the beauty of it right now, is like we don't know, like obviously as y'all thought, like App State felt like they were the top dog coming into this week while having such a shaky game last week, but you come out of it and they've been the top dog for years. And obviously like Coastal Carolina right now is sitting undefeated. Marshall looks really threatening, but they drop a tough game. Nobody knows where the Sun Belt's going to end up by the end of the season. I think that's the beauty of it, especially when Maddie talks about those regional rivalries. It just makes those even more valuable as we get further into conference play.
Indeed, I agree. It's going to be a good season, a big season, a lot to look forward to, and a lot to look forward to in the years to come with this conference. Absolutely amazing. Final score here, 32-28, JMU. Next weekend, Bridgeport Stadium, Texas State comes to town.